Welcome to African Tales by Quinn. Today we bring you a captivating story that highlights the power of patience, understanding and courage. This folktale is about Chichi and Ikenna, a couple in the African village of Tikani, who face tremendous challenges and grow stronger together. Join us as we delve into their journey filled with suspense, action and valuable life lessons. In the village of Tikani, nestled amidst rolling hills and lush greenery, a place where life moved at a gentle, unhurried pace. The villagers were known for their warmth and hospitality, and the community was tightly knit. It was in this serene setting that Chichima, affectionately called Chichi, and Ikenna lived. Chichi was a striking young woman, her name meaning a sweet and precious girl. However, despite her name, Chichi often struggled to live up to its promise. She had a fiery temper that could flare up at the slightest provocation. On her good days, Chichi was caring and loving, but her temper often overshadowed these moments of kindness. Ikenna, whose name meant father's strength, was a gentle and kind-hearted man, respected by everyone in Tikani. At 30 years old, he embodied patience and resilience, qualities that were often tested in his marriage to Chichi. Their story began years ago at the village's bustling river stream. It was a sunset evening, and Chichi was struggling to lift her heavy pot of water onto her head. Seeing her predicament, Ikenna stepped in to help her. With a warm smile, he lifted the pot effortlessly and placed it securely on Chichi's head. Grateful, Chichi thanked him, and from that day forward they became friends. Their friendship blossomed into love, and soon they were married. The villagers celebrated their union with joy, hoping that Chichi's temper would be tempered by Ikenna's gentle nature. However, the reality of their married life was far from what anyone expected. One sunny morning, Ikenna accidentally spilled a small bowl of soup Chichi had prepared. Before he could apologize, Chichi's temper erupted. She grabbed a nearby broom and beat him relentlessly, shouting at him for his clumsiness. Ikenna, despite his strength, did not fight back. He took the beating in silence, hoping it would calm her down. This incident was not an isolated one. Whenever Ikenna made a mistake, no matter how minor, Chichi's temper would flare up and she would lash out at him. On good days, Chichi would apologize, and they would share moments of tenderness, but these were becoming increasingly rare. Ikenna's love for Chichi and his desire for peace kept him from speaking out. He bore the pain in silence, his heart heavy with the hope that one day Chichi would change. The villagers, unaware of the turmoil inside their home, continued to see Ikenna as a pillar of strength and Chichi as an unpredictable storm. Despite the constant tension, there were fleeting moments of happiness. Chichi would sometimes surprise Ikenna with his favorite meals or join him in the fields, helping him with his work. During these times, Ikenna would see a glimpse of the sweet and precious girl he fell in love with, and his hope for a better future would be rekindled. But as days turned into months and months into years, the strain on their marriage grew. Ikenna's silent suffering and Chichi's unchecked temper created a cycle of violence that seemed unbreakable. The peaceful village of Tikani, with its beautiful hills and gentle rivers, stood in stark contrast to the turmoil within their home. As the sun set over Tikani, casting a golden glow over the village, Ikenna sat by the river stream where he had first met Chichi. He thought about their journey together, the love they had shared, and the pain that had followed. He wondered if there was a way to bring back the Chichi he had fallen in love with, the sweet and precious girl whose name she bore. Days turned into weeks, and weeks into months, but the tension in Ikenna and Chichi's home never truly eased. Each day, Ikenna would rise before the sun to tend to his fields, hoping the hard work would distract him from the growing unease at home. His once cheerful demeanor had become more subdued, and the sparkle in his eyes had dimmed. Chichi, on the other hand, continued to be a paradox. There were days when she would wake up with a smile, preparing breakfast and chatting happily with Ikenna. On these mornings, it was easy to forget the darkness that often clouded their relationship. But it didn't take much to tip the balance. A misplaced item, a forgotten chore, or an innocent comment could trigger her anger. One evening, after a long day of work, Ikenna returned home to find Chichi already in a foul mood. He had promised to repair a broken stool but had forgotten in his exhaustion. Chichi's eyes blazed with anger, and before Ikenna could explain, she began shouting. Her words were sharp and hurtful, each one a dagger to Ikenna's heart. "Do you think you can just ignore what I ask you to do? Are you that useless?" she yelled, grabbing the stool and throwing it at him. Ikenna dodged just in time, the stool crashing against the wall.
"I'm sorry, Chichi.
"I'll fix it now," Ikenna said softly, picking up the pieces. But Chichi was not done. She grabbed a nearby broom and struck him repeatedly, her rage seemingly knowing no bounds. Ikenna endured the beating in silence, as he always did. He knew that fighting back would only make things worse. After what felt like an eternity, Chichi finally stopped, her breath coming in ragged gasps. She stormed out of the house, leaving Ikenna alone with his pain. As he tended to his wounds, Ikenna couldn't help but feel a deep sense of shame. He was supposed to be the strong one, the protector, yet he couldn't protect himself from the person he loved most. He longed to confide in someone, but the fear of being ridiculed or not believed held him back. In a village where men were expected to be strong and invulnerable, admitting his suffering felt impossible. Despite the physical pain, it was the emotional wounds that hurt the most. Ikenna loved Chichi deeply, and each outburst chipped away at his heart. He missed the early days of their relationship when her laughter was infectious, and their love felt unbreakable. He held on to the hope that those days could return, that Chichi's temper could be tamed. One afternoon, as Ikenna worked in the fields, he was approached by Neka, an old friend he hadn't seen in years. Neka, whose name meant "Mother is Supreme," had always been wise beyond her years. She noticed the bruises on Ikenna's arms and the sadness in his eyes. "Ikenna, what's troubling you?" she asked gently, her voice full of concern. For a moment, Ikenna considered brushing off her question, but the kindness in her eyes made him pause. He took a deep breath and decided to confide in her. "Neka, it's Chichi. She has a temper and sometimes she takes it out on me," Ikenna admitted, his voice barely above a whisper. Neka's eyes widened in shock, but she quickly composed herself. "Ikenna, you mustn't suffer in silence. There are ways to help her and to protect yourself. Have you tried talking to her about how you feel?" "I've tried, but it only seems to make things worse. She doesn't listen when she's angry," Ikenna said, feeling a weight lift off his shoulders just by sharing his burden. Neka nodded thoughtfully. "Sometimes people need help to manage their anger. There are elders in the village who can counsel her, help her understand the impact of her actions. You don't have to go through this alone." Ikenna felt a glimmer of hope. Maybe with the right help things could change. He thanked Neka for her advice and promised to consider it. As he watched her walk away, he felt a newfound determination to find a solution, to bring back the peace and love that once defined their marriage. The days that followed were a mix of fear and hope for Ikenna. He carefully chose a moment when Chichi was calm to suggest seeking help. To his surprise, she didn't react with anger but seemed contemplative. Maybe, just maybe, there was a chance for change. Little did Ikenna know, this small step would set in motion a series series of events that would test their resolve and ultimately lead them to a path of healing and understanding. The days in Tikani continued with their usual rhythm, but for Ikenna, a subtle change had begun. Encouraged by his conversation with Neka, he found a moment when Chichi was in a good mood to bring up the idea of seeking help. They were sitting by the river stream, where their love story had begun, and the tranquil setting seemed to soften Chichi's heart. "Chichi," Ikenna began gently, "I've been thinking about our marriage. I love you deeply, but I think we need help. Sometimes your anger gets the best of you, and it hurts both of us." Chichi looked at him, her eyes narrowing slightly, but she didn't interrupt. Ikenna took this as a sign to continue. "There are elders in the village who can help us understand each other better. Neka suggested we talk to them. Maybe they can help us find a way to deal with our problems," he said, choosing his words carefully. For a moment, Chichi was silent, her gaze fixed on the flowing water. Ikenna held his breath, waiting for her reaction. Finally, she sighed and nodded slowly. "Ikenna, I know I have a temper. It's something I've struggled with all my life. Maybe talking to the elders isn't such a bad idea," she admitted, her voice softer than usual. Relief washed over Ikenna. It was a small step, but it was progress. He hugged Chichi, and for the first time in a long while, he felt a genuine sense of hope. The following week, they visited the home of Elder Chibuzo, a wise and respected figure in Tikani. Chibuzo, whose name meant "God is the way," welcomed them with open arms. He listened patiently as they shared their struggles, his kind eyes reflecting understanding and compassion. "Chichi, Ikenna, I commend you both for taking this step," Chibuzo said. "Admitting there is a problem is the first step towards healing. Chichi, it's clear you have a good heart, but your temper is causing pain. There are ways to manage anger, and I can help guide you through them." Chichi nodded, her eyes downcast. "I don't want to hurt Ikenna. He means everything to me. We will work on this together," Chibuzo assured her. "But it will take time and effort from both of you." Over the next few weeks, Chichi and Ikenna attended regular sessions with Elder Chibuzo. He taught them techniques to manage anger and improve communication. Chichi learned to recognize the triggers of her temper and how to calm herself before reacting. Ikenna learned to express his feelings more openly, creating a foundation of mutual respect and understanding. Gradually, the atmosphere in their home began to change. Chichi's outbursts became less frequent, and when they did occur, she was quicker to apologize and make amends. Ikenna, too, felt more confident in addressing issues before they escalated. One evening, as they sat together by the fire, Chichi looked at Ikenna with a mixture of gratitude and sorrow. "Ikenna, I'm sorry for all the pain I've caused you. I'm trying to be better." Ikenna took her hand in his, smiling gently. "I know, Chichi, and I see the effort you're making. We'll get through this together." Their renewed efforts brought about a period of peace and happiness that neither had felt in a long time. They rediscovered the love and friendship that had brought them together in the first place. There were still challenges, but with the support of Elder Chibuzo and each other, they felt more equipped to handle them. As the sun set over Tikani, casting a golden glow over the village, Ikenna and Chichi sat by the river stream, reflecting on their journey. They knew there was still work to be done, but for the first time in years, they felt a genuine sense of hope and possibility. Unbeknownst to them, this gleam of hope was only the beginning. The real test of their resolve was yet to come, and it would require all the strength and love they had to overcome the challenges that lay ahead. The village of Tikani bustled with activity as the annual harvest festival approached. The air was filled with excitement, and the aroma of delicious foods being being prepared for the celebration. Ikenna and Chichi were busy helping with the preparations, their newfound harmony a source of joy for both of them. However, despite their progress, Chichi's temper had not vanished completely. One day, just a few weeks before the festival, Ikenna returned home late from the fields. He had been helping a friend with his harvest and lost track of time. When he walked into their home, he found Chichi pacing back and forth, her face flushed with anger. "Where have you been?" she demanded, her voice trembling. "You said you'd be home before dark."
I'm sorry, Chichi.
"I was helping a friend and didn't realize how late it was," Ikenna explained, trying to keep his voice calm. But Chichi's temper flared. "You always have excuses. Do you even care about our home and our commitments?" Ikenna took a deep breath, recalling the techniques Elder Chibuzo had taught them. "Chichi, I understand you're upset. Let's sit down and talk about this calmly." For a moment, it seemed like Chichi might relent, but her anger was too intense. She grabbed a wooden spoon from the table and threw it at Ikenna. It struck him on the shoulder, causing a sharp pain. Ikenna winced but didn't retaliate. Instead, he took a step back and said firmly, "Chichi, this isn't the way to solve our problems. Please, let's talk." Chichi's eyes welled up with tears. She dropped to her knees, her anger dissolving into sorrow.
I'm sorry, Ikenna.
"I don't know what comes over me. I don't want to hurt you." Ikenna knelt beside her, gently lifting her chin. "We're both trying, Chichi. It's not easy, but we'll get through this together." The next day, they visited Elder Chibuzo again. Ikenna shared what had happened, and Chibuzo listened intently. "Chichi, Ikenna, setbacks are part of the journey. What's important is how you handle them," Chibuzo said. "Chichi, you're recognizing your anger and apologizing. That's progress. Ikenna, your patience and calmness are helping. But remember, you both need to keep working on this." Chibuzo suggested they take part in a special ritual during the harvest festival, a ceremony meant to bring peace and harmony to those struggling with personal challenges. The ritual involved making offerings to the spirits of the ancestors and seeking their guidance and blessings. Chichi and Ikenna agreed, hopeful that the ceremony would help them further. As the festival day arrived, they dressed in their finest clothes and joined the villagers in the central square. The air was filled with music, laughter, and the vibrant colors of traditional attire. At sunset, the ceremony began. Chichi and Ikenna stood before the village elder, holding hands. They offered food, drink, and flowers to the spirits, asking for their wisdom and support. The elder blessed them, invoking the spirits to bring peace to their hearts and home. As the ceremony concluded, Chichi felt a sense of calm wash over her. She looked at Ikenna, and for the first time in a long while, she felt a deep connection to him, unclouded by anger or resentment. That night, as they walked home under the starry sky, Chichi squeezed Ikenna's hand. "I feel different, Ikenna. Lighter. Maybe the spirits heard our plea." "I believe they did, Chichi," Ikenna replied, smiling. "And I believe in us." The weeks following the festival were peaceful. Chichi's temper was more controlled, and Ikenna felt more at ease. They continued their sessions with Elder Chibuzo and practiced the techniques they had learned. However, the true test of their resolve came one stormy night. A fierce thunderstorm hit Tikani, and their home was damaged by the wind and rain. The roof began to leak, and their belongings were soaked. Chichi felt the familiar surge of anger rising within her. But this time, she took a deep breath and remembered the ceremony and the elder's words. She turned to Ikenna, her voice calm but firm. "Ikenna, let's fix this together. We can handle desolate. Ikenna nodded, relief and pride filling his heart. They worked side by side, repairing the roof and salvaging their belongings. The storm outside raged on, but inside their home, there was a sense of unity and strength. By dawn, the storm had passed, and their home was secure once more. Exhausted but content, Chichi and Ikenna sat together, watching the sun rise over Tikani. They knew there would still be challenges ahead, but for now, they were stronger and more connected than ever before. Little did they know that the ultimate test of their bond was yet to come, one that would require all the love, patience, and strength they had built together. As the harvest festival celebrations faded into memories, life in Tikani returned to its regular pace. Chichi and Ikenna continued to work on their relationship, drawing strength from each other and their sessions with Elder Chibuzo. They felt confident in their progress and hopeful about the future. One fateful evening, an urgent call came from Ikenna's family in a neighboring village. His father had fallen gravely ill, and Ikenna needed to travel immediately to be by his side. He explained the situation to Chichi, who promised to manage everything at home while he was away. "Ikenna, take care of your father. I'll be fine," Chichi reassured him, her voice steady despite her worries. Ikenna left the next morning, his heart heavy with concern for both his father and Chichi. Days turned into weeks as he stayed by his father's bedside, helping with his care and praying for his recovery. Meanwhile, Chichi managed their home alone, coping with the challenges and loneliness as best as she could. One stormy night, just like the one that had tested them before, a group of thieves descended upon Tikani. They raided homes, stealing valuables and causing chaos. Chichi was alone when they broke into their house, demanding money and precious items. Fear surged through Chichi, but she remembered the strength she and Ikenna had built together. She refused to be paralyzed by fear. Summoning all her courage, she confronted the thieves, trying to reason with them. "Please take what you want and leave. There's no need for violence," she said, her voice trembling but firm. The thieves laughed, dismissing her plea. They began ransacking the house, ignoring Chi-Chi's protests. As they turned to leave with their loot, one of the thieves struck Chi-Chi, knocking her to the ground. The blow reignited her anger, but instead of losing control, she channeled it into action. Struggling to her feet, Chi-Chi grabbed a nearby stick and shouted, "Enough! Leave now, or you'll regret it." The thieves hesitated, surprised by her defiance. The noise had drawn the attention of the neighbors, who began to gather outside, ready to defend Chi-Chi. Seeing they were outnumbered, the thieves fled, leaving Chi-Chi bruised but victorious. The next day, news of Chi-Chi's bravery spread through the village. When Ikenna returned home a week later, he found Chi-Chi being hailed as a hero. He rushed to her side, his eyes filled with pride and concern. "Chi-Chi, are you all right? I heard what happened," Ikenna said, embracing her tightly. "I'm fine, Ikenna. It was terrifying, but I didn't let my anger control me. I faced them and protected our home," Chi-Chi replied, her voice strong. Elder Chibuzo visited them later that day, praising Chi-Chi's courage and growth. "You have shown great strength, Chi-Chi. You've learned to control your temper and use it for good. Ikenna, your patience and love have helped her on this journey." As they sat together, reflecting on the events, Chi-Chi and Ikenna realized how far they had come. Their bond was stronger than ever, forged through trials and triumphs. They knew there would always be challenges, but they were ready to face them together. The story of Chi-Chi and Ikenna teaches us that change is possible with patience, understanding, and support. Even the most challenging relationships can be transformed when both parties are willing to work together and seek help. Anger, when controlled, can be a source of strength rather than destruction. Have you ever faced a difficult situation where you had to control your temper and channel it into positive action? Share your experiences in the comments below. Thank you for watching African Tales by Quinn. We hope you enjoyed the story of Chichi and Ikenna and learned valuable lessons about patience, understanding, and courage. If you liked this video, please give it a thumbs up, share it with your friends, and subscribe to our channel. Don't forget to hit the notification bell so you never miss another African tale. We appreciate your support and look forward to bringing you more engaging stories. Until next time, stay tuned for more African tales.